Hello everyone, welcome to Kalam IS Academy. Today in this session we'll be discussing various aspects of GS answer writing. We'll discuss the basics of answer writing and the nitty-gritties, wherein you can add value to your answers and improve your answer writing skills. So I'll start with it. Now coming to GS3, this is one of the most interesting and most lengthiest papers because the syllabus is quite vast and the number of topics that we have to cover is also quite large. So it has 6 topics: economics, agriculture, internal security, environment, science tech and disaster management. Almost all of them, like economics, agri, security are 50 marks, then environment, SNT and disaster management approximately 100 marks is divided. Every year one question is here and there, but on an average it is 45 marks, 35 marks and 25 marks. Marks can vary slightly, but it's almost like this only. Now starting with economics. Economics question, there are few things which must be there in your answer. First is graphs and charts. So by graphs and charts I mean you can plot them on a graph and show particular data. For example, suppose question is on inflation, or suppose it is on GDP growth rate. You can say suppose V-shaped growth, some peak is there, or suppose question is of inflation, you can tell around 6% it is going up and down or something like that. Or suppose it is of exports, amount of exports, so you can tell ki recently we crossed $450 billion and then later $600 billion in merchandise exports or something like that. So that way you can draw charts. You can also draw bar graphs. Suppose question is of inclusive growth, ki number of poor people say in 2001, the number of poor people in 2011 and number of poor people in 2021. So that way you can show a decreasing trend. So graphs are very important. Try to be innovative and try to make as many graphs as possible. Second thing is keywords. So economics is a kind of technical subjects. It's better to use as many keywords as possible. For example, lot of keywords you can throw, like macroeconomic indicators like GDP growth rate, forex reserve, employment, or the debt to GDP ratio, what is the growth rate in GDP, GFCF, fixed capital formation rate, or private expenditure, government expenditure, capital expenditure, fiscal deficit. So these are all keywords of the economics. So you should first know the meaning of these keywords, and then secondly you should use these keywords in your answer. Third thing in economics is you should know that few themes are quite repetitive. First thing is growth and development. It is clearly mentioned in the syllabus, so you should be prepare these topics. So growth and development includes GDP growth, happiness index, and then inclusive growth, again a very repetitive theme in economics particularly. Every second year there is a question. Then questions on PPP. You should always also try to mention committees. So for PPP you have Kelkar committee, for banking you have a lot of committees, like for small payment banks, Nachiket More committee, Narsimhan committee, etc. And then for employment you have Sharda Prasad committee. So keep a habit of mentioning about the committees so that you can remember their recommendations and add value to your answer. And another important thing is data. Data facts are very important. You should know GDP growth rate, unemployment rate, female FLFPR, female labor force participation rate, or the debt to GDP ratio, debt of India, forex reserves of India. So these all macroeconomic indicators should be on your tips, so that you can write these in your answers and add value to it. Apart from that, you should be thorough with few basic concepts, like what exactly is unemployment, what exactly is labor force participation rate. So you should be able to define them in correct economic terms, so that you can add value to your answers and show the basic command you have on the particular knowledge, particular topic. Second thing is agriculture, second topic. Again, a very interesting topic to prepare. The questions are on similar themes, and UPSC makes sure to ask 4 questions, almost 4 questions every year. So first thing is analyzing PYQ. It is very important because themes are prominent, like food processing. Almost every year you will have a question on it. Then wheat and rice dilemma of India. Then you have PDS system and some tech in agriculture. So these are very prominent themes. Uh, you can expect almost uh, 2 to 3 questions per year from these topics. So you can prepare them well in advance, and again you can analyze them using PYQs. And then you have to remember a lot of data. Like suppose for food processing, you can tell it adds this much to the agriculture GDP, it employs so many people, it is a sunrise industry, and which all regions have good food processing sectors. And then government steps. Suppose question is about wheat and rice. So what are the various steps? Like you have PDS, then open procurement policy, then we have stocking policy, then limits are imposed on exports and imports, then we have tops. A lot of things are there, tops to total. So a lot of things are there with respect to these things, schemes by government. Then tech in agriculture, you have integrated farming, uh, precision agriculture. This year question was there. So a lot of questions every year on these similar themes. Prepare them holistically, add data to your answers, and the steps taken by government, and learn a lot of things. Like for PDS, you can mention every year, like they cater to almost 75% of population. What is the buffer stock maintained by FCI, and so on, so that you can add substantial value to your answer. Your answers won't look hollow. They should be full of arguments and facts. Now moving on to internal security. So again, it is question number 9, 10, 19, 20. Again, if you want, you can start with this question, that is 9, 10, 19, 20, so that you can answer this part very comprehensively. Again, fixed set of questions are there. You can start your paper from here, as I mentioned, for international relations in the GS2 paper. So very cleanly defined syllabus. Every year there is a question on every alternate year, left wing extremism or Naxalism. Then you have terrorism. Then almost every year cyber security question is there. Then you have border forces. So you are bound to get questions from these topics. Then you have social media, and then various border issues. One is border forces and one is border issues. So again, a very fixed set of topics that you have to prepare. So you can add a lot of value addition. First is diagram. You can draw a lot of maps. You can tell the linkages between organized crime and the terrorist organization, state and non-state actors. Or suppose question is on left-wing extremism. You can show the red corridor. You can make a small India's map like this, and you can say, okay, this part is still red corridor, that Naxalism is still present in this part of India. And then in border forces, obviously you can mark like what forces you have on what region, like Assam Rifles is there or BSF is there. So you can that way mark on the map and tell issues. Like here you have issue of smuggling, drones are being used. Here you have issue of illegal migrants entering into India. Here you have issue of this golden triangle and golden crescent. So on different borders we have coastal issues, a long coastal boundary, maritime boundary that we have. From here we have issue of Chinese incursion. So using a single map you can show a lot of things. And after that you have data. So you can tell with over the years number of districts in red corridor zone are decreasing, or number of incidents of terrorist killing civilians are decreasing. So you can show them on a graph or a chart, and then you can mention about various best practices to tackle these issues. Like you have for suppose cyber security, you have cyber dome of Kerala, you can mention about that, or social media labs of Mumbai Police, social media labs. So that is the way they tackle cyber issues. Suppose the question is on terrorism, you can mention about the Operation Sadbhavna of the Indian Army, how they tackle issue of brainwashing in parts of Jammu Kashmir and other parts of India. And then government steps, what government is doing to tackle all these issues. Now, for example, we have border issues, so we have Operation Sunrise, Operation All Clear with the neighboring countries. We are having joint operations. Or suppose we have issue of left-wing extremism, then we have the strategy of WAM, winning hearts and minds. So you can mention about various steps the government is taking to tackle all these internal security issues, because that is something that is directly affecting the lives of the people. So it's very important from the government point of view also. Now coming to the environment. So environment is very dynamic, and a lot of syllabus overlaps with your prelim syllabus. So themes here also are more or less fixed only. Pollution of air, land or water, or climate change and related issues. So you can also prevent, and here the keywords become very important, like carbon capture and utilization, blue hydrogen. So you should be aware of these terms, electric vehicles, and negative energy, positive energy, net carbon, like carbon sinks, so carbon sequestration, or how these there's ice albedo feedback. So you can use a lot of these keywords and link with the answers. Second thing is data. A lot of data is again available, that approximately these many gigawatts of energy is produced by solar energy, or this much percentage of energy is renewable energy in India, or various government steps, like we have electric vehicle policy or Panchamrit goals, or for climate change we are having International Solar Alliance, we are having CDRI for managing disasters, and various best practices to tackle these issues. Like we have Miyawaki type of urban forest to tackle the issue of pollution, and we have National Forest Policy. We promote agroforestry, and then a lot of other things you can mention, so that you have, suppose we have signed a lot of agreements, UNCCD, Paris Agreement, 1.5 degree, 2 degree rise in temperature, or UNCBD, and then lot of acts like WPA, EPA. So you can mention various things, EIA, how to balance development versus environment. So these are the things that you should mention in your environment answers, and that will ensure your answer is very comprehensive. And generally they ask issues related to environmental degradation, like mangroves, corals, or this year there was a question on coastal erosion. So these are all environmental problems, and if you see the particular theme, you can structure your answers in that particular way and generate a lot of good points. Then coming to SNT. SNT is very randomized, because every year a few questions are on predicted lines and few questions are completely random. If you see this year's question, there was a question on cellulose, a very random question. Or a few years back there was a question on blue LED. Not most of us don't know, so it's better to not waste time on such questions and devote your time on those questions on which you know answer. So you can start your answers is SNT with definitions. Like you define the keyword, you tell what different things, what is the exact meaning. Suppose a question is on cryptocurrency or blockchain, you define it is a distributed ledger technology, and it is basically based on decentralized accountability mechanism or something like that, and its application. So application is very important. Application in society, economics, environment, disaster management, health, or education. So these are the various ways you can utilize this technology in various fields, defense or agriculture. So that will ensure your answer is multidimensional. You tell the application of technology in various parts and how it is helpful. And you should be thorough with the recent technologies in use. Suppose these days generative AI, it's very much in news, chat GPT basically. So you can mention about this easily. Then you have disaster management, the last part of the GS3, very you know in news topic, because we have been facing issues of floods, landslides, flash floods, uh, heat waves, marine heat waves. Every year the intensity of these disasters is increasing, cyclones, and chances of this topic being asked also increases, because a lot of issues are involved when you have a lot of disasters happening in various parts of the country, and it affects a lot of GDP also. So first thing is you have to make a lot of diagrams in disaster management. Suppose a question is on cyclone, so you can maybe make a map of India and tell from here and here names of different cyclones, or you can this diagram, uh, how a cyclone is formed, anti-clockwise, clockwise, eye of the cyclone, and then you have cumulonimbus clouds. So these are the kind of diagram you can make in the question of cyclone. Suppose the question is of flash flood, you can tell various parts of India, like this region, this region, this region is affected by flash flood. Or urban floods, you can tell the urban centers of India getting flooded. So that way you can use maps very effectively. And even suppose you have to again show the mitigation of cyclones. So you can say, suppose this is our coastal area, this is the sea water, you can say eco shields or bio shields, coastal afforestation, so that they can reduce the impacts of cyclone in the residential areas. So these are very simple diagrammatic representations that you can use in your answers to make them look more effective. Then maps, as I've already told, you can draw maps to tell the affected region. Then NDMA guidelines are very, very important. Uh, NDMA has given guidelines for almost all the disasters, so that way you can read them and reproduce them in your answers. And the various steps the government has taken. So government has recently, uh, suppose mentioned about a national heat wave action plan they have formed. Then we have National Mission for Sustainable Agriculture to reduce the impact of disasters and climate change. Then National Cyclone Rehabilitation Policy, National Landslide Mitigation Policy. We have a lot of policies like that. You should mention about that. And then data, the amount of impact or the amount of frequency of these disasters. Suppose in last year we had around 28 or 25 days of heat waves in the 4 months of summer, which was highest in the entire century. So data like that can be mentioned in your answer. And then best practices, how at the local level we are combating with these disasters. You can mention about community based disaster risk reduction or Sendai framework, the concept of build back better. So these are the all keywords in the disaster management question you should mention and use.